are going to do a shared reading, and I think this is one of our very first shared readings that is like a time for kids. So it's very similar to like a Scholastic News. So we are going to do Visiting the Past. Now before we read this, Mrs. Murphy's just going to flip my book to, I'm going to flip to a couple pages after a story so that we can talk about what type of story is this. So look up here. This story is informational text. So it's going to give us information. So do you guys think this is going to be real or make believe? Real. It's going to give us real information. So this is going to be a real story. Okay? Now this is an expository text. So let's look for some key elements of this text. And I want you to raise your hand if you can tell me one. Okay? And I know these guys are going to be listening.
Expository text. Visiting the past is an expository text. Expository text gives facts and information about a topic. Can have photos, captions, and charts.
Okay, so tell me, yay, I see lots of hands. What are we going to find today in our story? It's an expository text, so what are we going to find, Tyson? What was it? Okay, did you forget? I'll come back to you. Raylan, what's one thing we'll find?
Can have photos, captions, and charts.
Photos and caption. Captions are telling us about the photo, and then charts. So we've learned about charts in reading. We made a chart yesterday on our board, and we've done charts in math. Mason. You forgot? Ellie, yes. Okay, facts and information. So this facts means it's going to be true. Okay, so what we're reading today is going to be true facts and information. Okay? So as we read this, let's look for facts, information. Let's look for photos, captions, and charts. Okay? All right. I'm going to go back to the page that you guys are on. 376. Okay? Our inquiry question is, how can learning about the past help us? So how can we learn about the past, and how can that help us? I'm going to have Addie, would you start right here, and everybody else is going to put their finger on the first word on. And you're going to finger track with Addie as she reads. Really loud, Addie, okay?
On the 40th of July.
Try that word again. Can you read that word again? On the
40th?
No. Fourth.
On the 4th of July, skates.
Oh. Long I, because we drop the Y and then I, yes.
Skies across the United States light up. It's united.
Okay, let's let her try to sum it out, guys. In. D. Pen.
Independence.
Try that word again.
Independence.
Independence Day.
The holiday.
Now that C is going to make the S sound because there's an E after it.
Celebrate.
This is a really big word. I'm going to help you with this word. Declaration. Everybody say that with me. Declaration. Addie, finish it. Independence. So you guys know when you're independent, that means you're all by yourself. And so that is what we're celebrating here, is the Declaration of Independence. Our country is going to be all by itself. It's no longer going to be with the king and the queen and with England. Okay? Kinsley, you go get a book.
There's one more. Yeah, there's no more.
Yeah, there's no more.
You can choose me.
No,
Cortland took that. Hey, Kinsley, you can have this one. I can look
guys,
up there.
hey, no thank you. No thank you. For me to decide, you guys to sit down and listen. Kinsley, you are going to sit and share with Corla, please. Charlotte, you're going to come up and share with Lily. And Carson, you're going to go back and share with Ellie. Okay? Move your chair. Go put down, please. You worry about you. I will worry about this. I bumped it, I know that. But I will take care of it. It's not for you to worry about me. Okay. Now, those of you that just came in, we just started our story. We are learning about our 4th of July, which is called Independence Day. Because we're celebrating our country is becoming independent. We're declaring it. We're saying, yay, we're going to be independent from England. Raylan, would you read the next paragraph?
In 1776, a statement was written to tell the King of England that the colonies were free from his rule. The colonies would be united to form a new country together.
Okay, so in 1776, there was a statement. So they wrote this down. They just didn't tell it by the mouth. They wrote this down to tell the King of England that the colonies were going to be free from his rule. He wanted to rule them and boss them around and tell them what to do. And they didn't like that. So back then they weren't called the states. They were called colonies. You guys say that with me?
Colonies.
So they were colonies. And they decided they didn't want to be with the king anymore. They didn't want him to tell them what to do. Brooklyn, put that away. So they were going to come together. They were going to unite and form a new country. Okay? All right. Wyatt, would you start reading the next paragraph? Oh, Wyatt, can you do one thing? Pull down your mask and talk really loud, please.
Janet Shang recently visited Philadelphia with her family. Philadelphia was the first capital of the United States. The Shangs went there to learn about the country's history.
Okay, so this is a picture of Philadelphia. This is where our first capital of the United States was. It wasn't Washington, D.C., where it is now. This was the first one. It's called Philadelphia. And Wyatt, can you see a photo and a caption that would match your paragraph? Do you see a photo on this page? Yeah, where is it?
The top right corner.
Yeah, the top right corner. So Wyatt read this paragraph about the Chang family, or Janet. And then up here, you can see that there's a photo of them. And what does it say? What's the caption, Wyatt?
The Shangs visited Philadelphia.
Yeah, so this is them visiting Philadelphia. It's a picture of them. It's a photo. Okay, now we're going to be busy building. Let's have Libby. Would you read the last bottom paragraph? Start with the word first. Really loud, Libby.
They want to independence. Tail.
Cool. Tall.
All that's where the
This is a hard word. Declaration.
Declaration of Independence was signed. She was
Oh, Janet
Janet
explained.
explained she was excited to be there.
So she's signing it, or she's saying it with excitement. She's like, oh, that's where the Declaration of Independence was signed. So this hall right here is where they signed that document, or that piece of paper, saying that we are going to be free from the King of England. Why, did you have a question?
It's weird because at first King George V said that you're no longer a part of England. But then he said we want that piece of England back. That doesn't make any sense because they got Boston, but they're not. I don't get it. They have Boston as a part of England, but they don't have any other states. He said that we're no longer part of England, but then he still wants America to be part of England. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. And And you're saying that they had Boston way back then, like
Yeah, they had Boston.
they captured it. Okay,
Common sense.
okay. Turn the page. Is that the document that you've read? Common sense? Oh, there's a document about that. Do you not read? You haven't read anything about that? Okay. All right, now let's start up here on 378. And I'm going to have Hayden, would you start up here with 10 years? Really loud, Hayden.
10 years after the
Declaration,
Declaration of Independence, the Constitution was written in Independence Hall. The writers of the Constitution created new rules for the country. Rules are important. They help to keep order in a country and give people rights. One new rule was that people could state their opinion.
Good job. So, here they are. Here's a photo of them that goes with this paragraph that Hayden read. And in the photo, it says the signers of the Declaration of Independence are here. And so, 10 years after the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution was written. So they took this big document, they wrote our Constitution for our country, and these were the writers, and they had to create new rules for the country. And we know rules are important because we got to be able to follow them so we have law and order. And one very important rule was that people could give their opinion. Because in England, if you had the king as like the ruler, could you give your opinion a lot? No. It was like his way
Only his
or the
way.
highway. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah. His way
the
or
highway?
no way.
Or no way. That's right. So a lot of people could not have opinions. They could not say what they thought or what they felt. So this was one new rule. It's okay in America to say what you think and feel, as long as you say it in an okay way. Okay? All right, let's go on to Ringing for Freedom. I'm gonna have Ellie A. Would you read that, please? Ellie, can you do one thing? You started out great, but can you pull down your mask and just talk really loud so we can all hear you? No. Look at that word again. Liberty. Reading of the Declaration Independence. Oh, the bell also what? Nope, sound that word out. Chimed. Announce. Okay, so later on they went to visit this, it's called Liberty Bell, and this bell is famous, and this is when they first read the Declaration of Independence to the public, to all the people. This bell was there, and it chimed every time something important was like announced, or any events that take place, or even when a president was elected, they would chime the bell. What do you notice? There's something famous about this bell. What do you notice about this bell looking at the picture? There's something famous about it. Kinsley?
It has a crack in it?
It has a crack, yeah. So it's known for having this big crack going down.
Why does it
The bell.
have that crack?
That I don't know actually. I don't know.
Maybe
how
let's
it
look it up.
Well, it's obviously
Probably 'cause of
broke,
the
but I
wind.
don't know the reason why it broke. It obviously
Probably
kind of
because
cracked
of
it
the
broke.
wind.
It's old, definitely.
Can we?
Okay, now let's look over over here. Let's look at some more memorable events. Okay. Lois, I'm going to have you read really loud.
Finally,
Janet
and her family explored Franklin Court. This is where Benjamin Franklin lived and worked. Franklin was one of the writers
Good job.
of the
Declaration
of the Pendant. He also helped frame the
Constitution.
Constitution.
There's some really big words.
To remember their visit,
Oh, no. Stop there. One paragraph at a time. Okay. So, they explored Franklin Court. And this is where Benjamin Franklin lived and worked. And he was one of the writers of the Declaration of Independence. Okay? And he helped frame or kind of outline or make the Constitution, too. All right. Last paragraph, Corla, really loud.
To remember their visit of
The chains.
mailed
Yeah.
a postcard from Franklin's post
Office.
office. I'll never forget this day.
Janet.
Said,
Okay, so to end it, Corla was a little bit quiet. She said, to remember their visit, the Chings mailed a postcard from Franklin's post office. And then she said, I'll never forget this day, Janet said. So, they got a pretty cool tour of Philadelphia and also of looking at Liberty Bell. And look over here. I found a chart. So this says visit Philadelphia. So going down is famous places, and then going across, we're going to learn why it is cool. So Mrs. Murphy's going to read these because they're kind of tiny, and they have some big words. The first one is the National Constitution Center. And this says it explains the rules that were created for our nation. One area tells of the right to say what you want and the right to vote. So one rule is to be able to say what you want and to vote. Because back then, when they had a king, could you vote for a new king?
no.
No.
You had to keep the same king.
You
over
have
and
to keep
over.
the same king probably until they die or until like their son or daughter would take over. So have you guys heard of Queen Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Queen Elizabeth and she's 98. She's old. Her husband's
93.
almost 100. I was going to say her husband just died this weekend.
Yep.
And he was 99. And
Too much shy of 100.
yeah, she's close, and she's still the queen. And she'll probably still be the queen until she dies. And then when she dies, her son will take over. Will the people get to vote for a new king?
No.
Or queen? No.
It's
That's
like
just
that,
the birth.
every
Yep.
4 years.
So if you're lucky enough to be born into that family, you could be a king or queen. But if you're not, which we're all not, we can never be the king or queen. We could be president because we could be voted for president.
Yay.
But that's one thing they changed, is that you can vote. We have the right to vote, and we have the right to say what we want to say. Okay? Now, at Independence Hall, this is where the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were written. And you can see the chair that George Washington sat as he signed the Constitution. Can you guys see that chair? I know it's kind of tiny in your books. Do you see that tiny chair?
I see George Washington in that
And-
chair.
Can you see George Washington there?
Yeah. I see George Washington.
Yep.
He was the commander of the
Yeah.
the American Revolution.
Okay, now this is a really cool next thing. Betsy Ross's home. Now, it is said that Betsy Ross made the first American flag. You can tour her home to see how she lived and worked. It is said that there's actually no proof saying that she made the flag, but it's believed. And it's actually she told her grandson that she made the flag, and then he's told other people, so we believe it's true, but there's really no proof. But you could go see her home to see where she worked and lived. And she was like a seamstress where she sewed a lot of things for like clothes and flags and blankets and that kind of stuff. Yep, she is gone because this happened many years ago, over 300, almost 300 years ago.
Like the 1700s.
Okay. All right. So, what were some important rules or important things you learned about our country today? Lila?
You learned, in the Wonders book or just like in this little?
Either one. Yep, either one.
So, we learned about the bell and stuff, and we learned about a lot of the presidents.
Good. There was a lot of presidents. A lot of these guys became presidents because they helped create our country. And what was the name of that bell? If you go home and tell your mom and dad.
Liberty.
What's the name of it? Liberty. Right?
Liberty.
Okay. And liberty means like freedom.
Yeah. I'm missing my finger.
It's a good bell. But it's not quiet.
This is the first American flag. Wasn't that the British flag? And like where the stars would be in blue, and then there was the stripes.
The first American flag, yeah, it does not look like what ours look like right now.
Or was that the one with the 13 stars?
There was 13, I know that was eventually one of them, the 13 stars in a circle. But I'm not sure if Betsy Ross, you might have to look up that flag up. I'll look that up in a few minutes. Because that one is totally different than what we see today. And then eventually they went to the circle with the 13 for the colonies. Yep. Okay, Kinsley.
Two things. We learned about why there is,
Don't forget. Okay.
second thing, what if there was, there was no other people in the family?
If there was a king or queen. We're talking about king and queens.
Yeah.
Then it would probably go to someone, like if there wasn't like a son
Like
or
an
daughter,
aunt or like a...
it would go to like someone, like an aunt or
grandkids.
uncle or cousin or something like that.
Or best friend.
Okay, Hayden, what did you learn today?
I learned about the circle that you told us about.
The flag?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was Minnesota one of them?
No, Minnesota was not a 13th colony. Brooklyn,
I have a couple things.
what'd you learn?
I learned about the bell and about it, but we didn't really learn that much about it. But when you look up the flag, can you look up how it got that
Cracked?
crack
I can
in
do
it?
that. I can do that. Hey, Lewis, what'd you learn?
Lightning. Why did George Washington get a consequence?
Why did he what?
Get a consequence?
The Constitution?
Yeah.
He wrote that. He helped frame or write that. Constitution. It's just the name of the paper. So like this was the Constitution with all our rules. And then the president, well, not the presidents at that time, but all these guys signed it, saying that this is our Constitution. This is like our country's rules.
Then
And
my first thing, my second one, are these all the presidents?
Not everyone was. No,
Some died.
but most were. Okay, a couple more things, and then we gotta do this paper or else we won't get outside for morning break. Raylan.
So when there's the king, they had to bow and do all that. George Washington didn't want them to do
Right, he did not
it.
want
And
that.
everything that they would do, he didn't want them to do it.
He's
Right?
like, no.
Right. Carson, what'd you